was no time for subtlety when Boris Johnson bulldozed that Brexit message home, promising to break through the gridlock. Theresa May before him also pledging to get it done.
We can actually get Brexit done.
And now it's Rishi Sunak's turn to don the hard hat and go into battle. In the past couple of weeks, the Prime Minister flying in for talks with European leaders. It's now suggested a new Brexit deal for Northern Ireland is close. With the Irish Prime Minister saying today the talks were, in his words, inching towards a conclusion. Do you think that it is imminent?
It sounds like they're going into the tunnel, as they call it, that they're starting to reach an end point of these negotiations. The mood music, the vibe is very, very good. I think the question is obviously whether the deal is going to be acceptable to the DUP.
The Northern Ireland Protocol was first agreed by Boris Johnson as part of his Brexit deal with the EU, but it's been a source of tension ever since. It aims to avoid checks on goods crossing the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland to avoid a hard border. Brought in 2021, it means that goods arriving into Northern Ireland from the UK are checked. Under Sunak's new plan, there would be 2 lanes. Goods arriving into Northern Ireland from mainland UK would mostly not be subject to checks, but any products bound for the Republic of Ireland would be checked. There has been, shall we say, some heavy signalling. On Friday, Mr Sunak and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen spoke on the phone. Downing Street said the Prime Minister had made, quote, good progress. Today, King Charles was reportedly due to meet von der Leyen too, but that meeting's now cancelled. Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary James Cleverly has pulled out of a trip to the Middle East next week, raising expectations that an announcement could be coming, or could it? Do you think then the DUP could still be a spanner in the works, so to speak, for Rishi Sunak?
Their base wants them to maintain this position of not accepting the protocol in its current form, maybe not accepting the protocol at all. I really do think they've gotten themselves into a hole here because they've given themselves no wiggle room. It doesn't make any electoral sense for them to accept some type of compromise. I don't see them trying to sell it to their base.
As the talks roll on, it's thought Rishi Sunak will work through the weekend to woo his sceptics. The clock is ticking.
Well, earlier I spoke to Anand Menon, director of the UK in a Changing Europe initiative, who's accused Rishi Sunak of risky politics, saying he's put his credibility on the line. I began by asking him how close he thinks we are to a Brexit deal.
Well, I think all the signals are that we have a Brexit deal. The question is, how close are we to a Brexit deal that the Prime Minister can sell both to the DUP and the European Research Group? And there, I have to say, initial signs are not encouraging.
There's a real sense of déjà vu. Conservative Prime Minister grappling with Brexit, worries about what will happen on his own or her own backbench. What makes it different for Rishi Sunak?
Well, structurally, we're facing exactly the same problem that we faced when Boris Johnson signed the protocol, which is there is no magic solution to being outside the single market and the customs union and avoiding a border in the island of Ireland. What I think Rishi Sunak has got going for him is, firstly, for many Conservative MPs, there is no alternative to him. They've changed leader several times in recent years. They don't want to do it again. Secondly, I suspect a lot of MPs are just bored of Brexit, and whether they like the deal or not, they're just keen to have this out of the way. The third structural thing which is different, I think, is that Rishi Sunak doesn't actually need to win a vote in the House of Commons about this. This agreement is an agreement on how to implement a deal that's already ratified.
He would come under significant pressure from his own backbenchers to ensure that they have some sort of say, though.
Well, yes, I think it'll be very difficult for the Prime Minister not to allow some kind of vote in the House of Commons. My point is more, you don't need to win a Commons vote to agree this tweak to how the protocol is made operational. The problem the Prime Minister is going to have is if sufficient numbers of his backbenchers are unhappy, that leaves him reliant on Labour votes, which for many will be a very bad look for a Conservative Prime Minister.
What about the actual technicals of this deal? Apparently there would be a green lane for produce staying in Northern Ireland and a red lane for those going further on to the south of Ireland and the EU. Does that actually work?
Yeah, there are several interesting things about the rumours we hear about the deal, because of course I haven't seen it. The first of these green and red lanes, which will make it far easier for exporters in Great Britain to send their goods to Northern Ireland, goods that are staying in the Northern Ireland market. There will be far fewer checks less paperwork, though I think there'll still be some checks and a bit of paperwork. But also over the last few days, we've had leaks saying that actually the European Union have allowed to let the UK have its VAT rules and its state aid rules apply in Northern Ireland, which hasn't been the case to date with the protocol, and I'm sure the Prime Minister will sell that as a huge victory. What we need to see is what tweaks, if any, there have been to the institutions of this arrangement, because of course for many Conservative MPs, and particularly for the DUP at the moment, this no longer is about trade flows east and west between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It's about the principle of sovereignty, and that means ensuring Northern Ireland has a say in the rules that govern it, and that the role of the European Court of Justice, the EU's court, is minimised as much as possible. And on that, we're going to have to wait and see what the deal says and what the reaction of those various people, both in Northern Ireland and in Parliament, is.
What about this idea to bring in the King as part of the showmanship of the Brexit deal? I mean, the DUP are already very unhappy about that, calling it an abuse of monarchy.
Well, it does seem quite a stretch for the government to have brought the King into the process in that kind of way. There are stories in the press this weekend about hopes on the part of the government that they could call this new agreement the Windsor Agreement, thereby implicitly bringing the royal family into this. What is striking is how quickly Number 10 have backed off from this, denied that they had any plans to do this, so it's not happening. But it does seem like slightly rash behaviour by Number 10, if indeed it was true, because it would lead to a degree of politicisation of the role of the monarchy.
So do you think we will see something announced by Monday? Would you put money on it?
I never put money on politics, I only put money on football, so I'm as clueless as the rest of you.
Great. Well, thanks for that great insight. Anand Menon, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.